Ian? Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Maria Fonseca, and I'm a grants associate here at the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. I would like to welcome you to this Quality of Life Applicant Technical Assistant webinar. If you need to turn on the closed captioning, there's an icon on the lower right. Also, there'll be an ASL interpreter that is going to be with us throughout the webinar. If you have any questions, please submit them in the Q&A instead of the chat, and the whole Quality of Life team is here, and we're going to answer them as we go along. We're going to gather these questions and answers and post them in our website. This presentation and the slides are going to be available on our website in a few days. So I am going to turn off my camera and share the slides with you. So these are the topics that we are going to be discussing today. We're going to talk about the Reeve Foundation National Paralysis Resource Center and give you an introduction of all the services that we provide. We're going to go through the application process, and we're going to go over what a direct effect grants application looks like and ask for, and what kind of programs and project types you can apply for. We'll do the same for priority impact. We are going to go quickly over the review process and the grant selection and how our awards grantees notified. The National Paralysis Resource Center is in partnership with the Administration for Community Living. The National Paralysis Resource Center provides much needed free educational information, programs, emotional support, and individualized assistance to Americans living with paralysis, along with their caregivers, their families, and medical professionals. This grant program is part of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. And what is important to know is that we are a paralysis focused, and that the grant funding must be targeted to projects that will serve individuals living with paralysis, their families, and caregivers. We use a functional definition of paralysis as the difficulty or inability to use arms or legs due to neurological conditions included but not limited to spinal cord injury, traumatic brain injury, stroke, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, ALS, post-polio syndrome, and others. While we will consider supporting programs that include people that have co-occurring disabilities, as well as inclusive community projects, proposed projects, they must serve a majority of people who are living with paralysis. And we require that the project serves at least 3 individuals with paralysis and or their family and caregivers. The National Paralysis Resource Center opened its doors to promote the health, the independence, and the well-being of individuals living with paralysis by providing comprehensive resources, education, and referral services. Our mission of today's care and tomorrow's cure, we are dedicated to curing spinal cord injury by advancing innovative research and improving the quality of life for individuals and families impacted by paralysis. For our missions of today's care, in addition to our QOL program, we offer an array of free services and resources to the paralysis community. We have a team of information specialists that is available to provide individual support, printed and digital resources, peer and family support groups, and a yearly summit that will take place next year in March of 23 in Washington, D.C. The Reeve Foundation cannot award grants to individuals, but our team of information specialists can help you identify resources that provide financial assistance. And you can call us toll-free at the number that is here, or send us a question through our simple online form, and all this can be found in our website. In addition, please know that all of our resources are free, including our flagship publication, The Paralysis Resource Guide. It's available in English and Spanish and on 10 other languages. We have wallet cards on AD, other secondary conditions. There are publication bladder and bowel management, pressure injuries, advocating for the rights of children living with paralysis and employment. We have state fact sheets and many other resources that are also available. And again, these materials are available for your own organization as well as for those you serve. And you can order them directly on our website, or you can call one of our information specialists. Remember that all these resources are free to you at no charge. Just wanted to take some time and go over important dates for this cycle. As you know, the cycle opened and we are accepting applications as of August 30th. The deadline for email questions is September 12th, and all those questions are to be emailed to the qol@christopherreeve.org email address. The proposals are due October 11th. The external review takes place from October 16th to November 3rd. The internal review takes place November 8th to December 5th. The grants are awarded by the end of December, and the grant period starts January of 2024. For this cycle, we'll be offering direct effect and priority impact grants. And submissions, again, are due October 11th, important, and you can only submit one application per cycle. Also, this is this was a question that was submitted when the registration showed you cannot apply for both cycles at the same time. You have to either direct effect or priority impact. And if your organization has already applied once in 2023 or have been declined, you are definitely more than welcome to apply again. We have these tools available to you to further assist you in completing your application. All these tools are available on our website. There's a QR code. If you want to scan that, it will take you directly to the Quality of Life Grants application process page. There are videos, tutorials. The grant application and the program guidelines are very detailed with all the information that you need, especially to determine what you should apply for. People First Language Guide and a quick guide to establishing evaluation indicators. So for this cycle, we are offering direct effect. The direct effect quality of life grants fund specific budget items up to a total of $25,000 and to support the wide range of projects and activities that would clearly impact living with paralysis and their families. If you are funded and accept this grant, the terms require you to complete an interim report at 6 months and a final at 12 months. These grants are for projects that will begin in January 2024, and there are instructions in the application. And it's very important. I just wanted to remind everyone that all requests for $25,000 must include a valid SAM.gov number. It's called the Unique Identity ID number, and there's instructions in the application on how to apply. Types of direct effect projects that we have funded include adaptive sports by sports wheelchairs for a wheelchair basketball team, accessible gym equipment, a lift for a pool. It can also include services like a workshop on like I said, here education series on sex and sexuality, which is spinal cord injury, support groups, camps, transportation. So all these programs are project types that we have funded for this tier. The other grant structure that we have for this cycle is priority impact. And priority impact there's going to be there's 3 tiers that we're going to go over, but they must the project to be completed will be noted in the following slides, but they range from $30,000 to $50,000. There's interim reports and checkups that are required, and a final report that is also required. It'll be noted in the following slides. And again, being that the amount is over $25,000, we do need that unique identity ID number. The tier 2 impact, priority impact, it grants up to $30,000. and must be completed within 12 months. And that includes assistive technology, disaster preparedness. And I just want to say, we just completed a disaster preparedness resource. So if there's something that you might need for your organization, those are available, and respite caregiving. The assistive technology is open to all organizations with the emphasis on increasing independence of people living with paralysis, to assist them to participate fully in the communities of which they are part of, and enhance their social, employment, education, and finance-related quality of life using assistive technology. The disaster preparedness grants funds to nonprofits and organizations that address the needs of emergency preparedness and the needs of people with paralysis in a national disaster environment. And respite caregiving, this grant recognizes family caregivers and the role that they play in caring for those people living with paralysis. Tier 3 are grants up to 40,000 and must be completed with 18 months. There is a rural underserved and racial equity tier to this. And the aim is to provide and fund projects that benefit people living with paralysis in unserved and underserved rural communities. For example, we received a question of an organization that provides aluminum removable ramps to provide home accessibility to underserved and rural people with spinal cord injuries. And that would be a great example for a grant that would fall into this category. I want to mention that if you're selecting rural, unserved, and underserved as your project type, it will branch out to this question to ask details about the population that you are trying to serve. For priority impact tier 4, is grants up to 50,000 and must be completed within 24 months. Employment is one of the Reeve's top priorities because employment is fundamental in improving the life of people living with paralysis. So this would fund projects that would help with financial security, higher quality of life, and improve community connections. Just remember that the funds cannot be used to pay stipends to the participants or salaries or incentive. Nursing home transition, the grant for the cycle, the grant amount has been changed from previous cycles. We actually conducted a learning community meeting with past nursing home transition grantees, and from their feedback, we reevaluated the need to increase the amount for this tier. Please also note that nursing home transition applications only can award funds that can be used to address barriers to facilitating successful nursing home transition for individuals with paralysis. For example, equipment or medical devices or Hoyer lifts, supplies, transportation costs not outlined in the application, indirect or fees for legal documents or are can be funded by this grant. Funds can also be allocated to expand personnel capacity so that the staff time could be used to transition individuals. For example, if you need to hire like a part-time coordinator to facilitate these transitions. However, these expenses are not allowable for the direct effect transitioning home focus area, but they're allowed as a priority impact nursing home transition. Before we moved on to the application, just wanted to go over the eligibility requirement that we want to make sure everyone understand. Previously, the waiting period for reapplying for funding after receiving a grant was 1 year from your grant closure. With this new cooperative agreement, we are striving to create a level playing field and opportunity for the organizations applying for funding. So we have instituted a waiting period of 5 years, but that's only within the same category. Any other category or tier will still be a 1 year period from your previous grant closure. For example, if there are 5 tiers of funding available twice a year, if your organization receive a tier 1 adaptive sports grants this cycle, then you must wait 1 year after the grant is completed. You submit your final report and you receive notification from us that your grant has closed before you can apply for another quality of life grant. Your organization then would be ineligible for a second tier sports grant until after June 30, 2026, but you might apply for a different tier or for other, for other tiers of funding or project type. Grant applications are completed online through a link to the Reeve Foundation online grants portal. And you can find the link on our website and in our grant application and program guidelines. Once these slides are posted, you may copy and paste the URL so you can access it in your website, the website browser. We also ask you to please add qol@christopherreeve.org and administrator@grantinterface.com to your acceptable email address list to avoid having email communications from the Reeve Foundation blocked by spam. The administrator@grantinterface.com emails are those that you're going to be receiving directly from our online grant system. After clicking on the link to access the Reeve Foundation grant portal, you are going to be brought up to the log on page. As you can see on the right here, you can click to create an organization profile. If you are trying, we get a lot of questions of people who are trying to log in, or maybe they don't have credentials. We really want to make sure that that if you create an account, if you're a first-time applicant, you can go through this process. But if you're a returning applicant, use the email address that you used before. If you need assistance, just send us an email and we will reset those login credentials for you. Also, at this time, if the contact information for your organization has changed, it's a great time to just update any addresses that haven't changed. If there's someone who left your organization and is not there, we want to update that also. And we really would like to have at least 2 contact names for each organization.
Maria?
Yes?
Could I just add something or clarify something?
Sure, of
So
course.
we've been receiving questions regarding reapplication period. So I just want to clarify that a little bit.
Of course.
So there is a mandatory waiting period of 1 year after the grant closing notification date before reapplying. So say you closed today, September 6th. If your project closed today, and I will close it and I will send you an email that's dated September 6th. So the next eligibility will take place in September of 2024. Now, in addition to that, because ACL has implemented this 5-year initiative to level the playing field, as Maria said, there is a separate criteria that must be met. So in addition to waiting 1 year, you can apply for different tier, same project type, that's fine. Same tier, different project type, that's fine. But same tier, same project type is not okay. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Parul. Thank you very much, Parul.
You're welcome.
And again, if you were a prior grantee, you would have received a notification that comes from the system that's prepared by Parul telling you exactly when your grant was closed. So you can always use that as a reference. As we go over the application, we have provided screenshots to share with you as we go along. I am sorry if the print is small. I just wanted but you should be able to see them clearly when you're completing the application. I just wanted to just go through the process of the application itself as it appears when you log in. First of all are the links that are available for the guidelines for discussing people with disabilities and our application and program guidelines. Make sure that you review the language guide and confirm that you understand them. Then it would take you to this is the apply page to start your application, where you select if you're going to apply for a priority or a direct effect. Both tiers are here, and where you can select. I just wanted to let you know that when you're here, you see the preview. You can preview the questions. There's also this Send to Grant Hub, which is an app where you can keep track of your grants and deadlines if you're applying to other organizations. But when you select preview, As you can see here on the top right, it will provide you with a document with all of the questions in the applications. If you would like to work offline before submitting them, it's a great tool to have because it'll just give you a PDF document with all the questions that you're gonna need to answer. So let's go into see who is eligible to apply. You're going to see these questions also in the application to determine if you're able to proceed. This just is a quick summary of the eligibility questions to determine who can apply. And of course, it's nonprofit organizations. You have to have an IRS 501c3 tax status, municipal and state governments, school districts, colleges and universities, recognized tribal entities, and other institutions such as community health centers or veterans hospitals. Who is not eligible to apply is an organization that is a for-profit or an organization that is acting as a physical sponsored or a physical sponsor applying on behalf of a non-501c3. If you don't have your own 501c3 tax determination, or if you're not part of a chapter of a national organization that is a nonprofit, if you're a 501c4 organization that does not have a 501c3 status, and as Brew also mentioned, if you have a current or an open grant with the Reeve Foundation right now, irrespective of grant program or tier that has not met the mandatory 12-month waiting requirement to reapply, you cannot apply. And previously awarded grantees may apply for the cycle only after 1 year of the close of the prior grant and notification of grant closure by the Reeve Foundation. Also, you're not able to apply if you're conducting business or you're going to use vendors outside the United States to fund some of the equipment for your project. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like on the application. I know it's a series of questions, but it will definitely just go to determine if you're able to apply. This is a listing of the funding restrictions. We are not able to fund, we're not able to give money given to individuals, for example, directly to pay for respite or travel reimbursements, or directly to a participant and not a company. So if you arrange travel, you cannot reimburse the participants directly. It has to be through a company, or cost of t-shirts or uniforms. We usually see a lot of those in the applications, water, meals. We're not able to fund that. We're not able to fund research of any kind or rehabilitative therapy. However, programs that assist people living with paralysis to participate in exercise opportunities are allowable. Programs that use physical or occupational therapists to work directly with persons with paralysis are considered part of this rehabilitative therapy. Exercise opportunities that are facilitated by someone who, for example, has a bachelor's degree in exercise science or is a certified fitness instructor would be an allowable expense. And again, this is what it looks like on the application as you go through all the different questions. Equipment that can be funded, it has to be one that provides access or promotes independence. And equipment might be also purchased under the Nursing Home Transition Grant Program. And we just went over those allowable expenses pertaining to that program. However, it is allowable to fund loan closets. Otherwise, equipment provided to individuals to keep is considered a gift. And it is important that you detail in your application how the loan closet will be managed. Requests for loan closets must include a specified time period. Typically, a device loan is loaned for 4 to 6 weeks and sometimes up to 9 weeks or 3 months. And it enables individuals to try out and get familiar with a assisted technology or a durable medical equipment before they go out and purchase them on their own. This also applies to ramps. get the development of prototypes for the invention of equipment or other research and development activities involving intellectual property rights. And then, of course, the construction of buildings, major construction. However, funds might support simple accessibility modifications to existing structures like playground or trails or other things like that. Requests for simple to make a bathroom accessible. For example, if there's already an existing bathroom and you want to add in grab bars or accessible toilets and sinks, we cannot fund the building of a new bathroom or a major renovation of the existing bathroom. So for example, if you're requesting funds, like also for, let's say, an elevator or an accessible lift, this will be allowable under equipment that provides access and promote independence, but we cannot fund the excavation or the construction of the elevator or shaft, as that will be considered major construction. As it relates to playgrounds, modifications or minor relocations of older non-accessible playgrounds or parks are allowable. We cannot fund any playgrounds that would be entirely new where a playground was not there before. For example, we see many applications for fully accessible playgrounds in schools, districts, or towns that currently have no inclusive and accessible options for children living with paralysis and their families. So if a school comes to us with a proposal that says they're completely renovating their non-accessible playground to make it fully accessible and inclusive because they're replacing the older playground, then we can fund things like that, such as pour and play surfacing or accessible and inclusive playground structures. If the school did not have a playground before and it's installing a brand new playground for the first time on the property, we're not able to fund that, as we consider it new construction. If minor relocations are happening with the same property, such as moving the playground to a more accessible location on school grounds, that would be considered eligible as well. But relocations must remain at the same property. And once it becomes a change of address, it's no longer a minor relocation. So then after going to that, all the eligibility questions and of what type of organization you are and what you're funding, it's going to ask you to confirm that you read this. It's going to ask which kind of organization as you will be applying. Is going to confirm that the proposed project will serve individuals living with paralysis, their families and their caregivers, and it's going to ask you for the project type. This is for direct effect, but priority impact would have the same project type, the same project type question. The next step will be to describe your project. And what we want to see here, and here's an example of a good description, it's just to provide a simple, short summary of the project, which outlines the why, the need for the project, what activities and offerings you're going to be providing, and how Reeve funding support your project. We suggest that you keep it simple, as other specific project components like timeline and goals, impact are all covered under a different section of the application. So we have an example here of just a simple project description where we're saying that 20 people with paralysis as registered users of the fitness equipment at no cost, and that one of the equipment is old and it needs to be replaced. So the organization, there's no other organization within the 20-mile radius that offers this opportunity. So the installation and the use of this equipment will allow to provide services to individuals living with paralysis, and talk about what the fitness opportunity benefits both mentally and physically. This equipment has had a proven positive impact on the health, fitness, and cure of participants with paralysis. Just to let us know, like when the, for example, in this case, when the equipment will be installed, at the facility, and where that would be, and when do you anticipate the date of installation, and the requested funding will support the purchase of these equipment. For the project goals, we just want, for example, here, we want to see at least one of the major goals that this project is going to bring. For example, to increase the access to fitness opportunities for people with paralysis by offering X number of free training classes, or membership to our facilities to people with paralysis. Go into a little bit of the details on when these classes will be, how these classes will be led by a certified professional who's going to achieve the participants in their individual goals. When it comes to the timeline, please make sure that all the approvals internally in your organization and purchases have been panned out and are attainable for a direct effect, for example, a 12-month period or longer for the priority impact. Just take in consideration that the project is for 12 months. So if you're ordering equipment, or if you have to get approval for any part of the project, that all those things are already in place. Then it's going to just go over, we just want to know how many individuals living with paralysis this is going to impact, and how many of the caregivers or family members are going to be impacted by this project. We want to you to complete the demographics, and I just like I mentioned before, if you're applying for a priority impact rural community, just to ask you about the rural communities that you're planning to serve. If you need assistance in determining the number of people living with a disability in your area, or some statistics that you need to use, here is some information on websites that can assist you with that. You are going to need to identify the approach that you're going to take to achieve and measure these goals and outcomes. And based on what you expect to achieve through this project, how are you going to measure these benefits? So for example, based on what we talked about before, if 20 people with paralysis and at least 90% of the participants will improve quality of life, then your evaluation methods could be something like, we will use registration forms to track people and solicit end user participant feedback at the end of the class. And there's also information on evaluators that is part of the application and the guidelines. So
Maria?
Yes.
Excuse me, I'd just like to jump in on
Yep.
this one as well. So the thing to remember with evaluation, no matter which methodology you use or propose to measure against, make sure you give yourselves enough time. Now, for direct effect, it is a 12-month timeline for the entire project, and that includes evaluation. So it is imperative that you know your internal organization structure for approving work orders or purchase orders or processing invoices, because I have a lot of grantees that come back to us telling me that, you know, they didn't realize that they had such a rigid internal policy in place to get approvals for the purchase order. Therefore, the equipment came in 6 months after it was originally supposed to have been. Thereby, we're not able to conduct an evaluation, hence we need an extension. So I'm just putting it out there. Please to consider, you know, your timeline carefully, do your homework, your feasibility, and make sure that the evaluation piece also is accounted for in your project timeline.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Parul. And then we use this information, then we go into the medical or underserved areas and populations. We want you to let us know. We use this information when reporting to ACL. So please complete this area and the MUA, MUP status and geographic service area. Next, we move to the budget. as it states here, they'll ask you for the amount that is requested. Remember again, that direct effect is up to 25,000 and priority impact depends on the tiers. We need to know the entire amount of what the total project is going to cost. And then you need to detail this in the Excel project template. We have revised the project budget template. The new template is, you can download it straight from the application. So please use that document. Do not use any older versions of the budget template. And we also have put the link for a video tutorial on our website right on the application, which walks you through filling out the budget template. Okay, so now this is a list of the expenses that are allowable and all the things that we can fund. And if this is your first time applying for a quality of life grant, you'll be surprised just as how many different project categories we're able to fund each year. Funds can support a wide range of programmatic expenses for different programs and services, which we just cover in the direct effect description slide. Grant funds can support programs, personnel, consultants, contracted workers, entry fees, transportation costs, facility rental, travel reimbursement, marketing equipment, and we have a few of the equipment, though please see the funding restrictions that we just talked about. And these are the guidelines for travel, and these are they're determined by government guidelines. So just make sure that you use these amounts that are listed here if you are covering any travel. Allowable expenses, you can have an administrative or indirect costs and with a rate of no more than 10%. If you have a higher rate that has been negotiated, please make sure that you send us a copy, and that's going to be required to with your application for funding. Programmatic expenses directly related to serving individuals living with paralysis and their families are considered more favorable than operational expenses or any other large and capital projects. So when you download, this is what the project, the proposed project template looks like. All the directions are there. The formulas have been is all formulated, so do not alter any other formulas on the template. Always remember not to include any taxes. If you're buying equipment, please itemize each one and let us know the cost of each one. We appreciate if you can provide quotes when possible. And again, for the travel, like we said, we see all the allowable expenses, no meals or personal gifts are allowed. And then we have the line for the indirect costs. The formulas will calculate automatically and make sure that the cost matches the previous page, as well as the amount that you have requested. The this part of the budget template, we want to know if there's a funding gap, and it will calculate it there. Just let us know. It's always it's helpful for us to see how much our funds are contributing to the total project, and also to get an idea where that difference is coming from, and if the fundings are committed or are pending. Part of the budget is going to be the budget narrative. And the budget narrative is basically just writing what is in the Excel sheet, and just go line by line in your budget template and include the description and a justification of each budget category and the line item that is presented in your proposed budget. Please do not list anything on this narrative that you are not requesting funding for. The budget narrative should really help us just get a better understanding of what the grant funds are being used for. There's also a copy of this narrative template straight from the application, so please use that template that is there. For vendor quotes are strongly recommended, especially for all equipment purchases and consultants and contractors, and can definitely strengthen your requests. Vendor quotes and other information that support budget items might be scanned and uploading using the upload button. I know that we got a lot of questions about vendor quotes. It's not require that you submit 3 vendor quotes, and these the vendor quotes are more for your records in case they're for your internal records and would need to be provided if they're requested. We want to know what is your budget strategy if this project is not funded by Reeve. And again, supporting materials are always welcome. Sometimes we, receive pictures of the equipment that is going to be purchased or pictures of or any kind of supporting materials from the services that you're providing. So we encourage you to include them here. For the mission statement, this part should list who you are and what you do and how you do it and the reason that your organization is in place. Once again, I just want to remind you once again that all federal funded grants need to have this unique identity ID. They did away with the DUNS number and replaced it with this number. So if you're requesting 25 or more, you must have this number and the zip code with the additional 4-number code. The application then goes into some general federal audit requirements, just if your organization has been required to file any annual single audit, and it's just going to very straightforward questions about federal funding in these last pages. Finally, we want to know if you're a prior grantee. If you are, we want to see a copy of your final report and want to know how you, and we also want to learn how you learned about this grant opportunity. You can save the application at any time and go back to it by clicking the save application. Just make sure once you have completed it that you click the submit application. A submission confirmation will appear and the system will also send you an email indicating that your application has been received. So again, please make sure that your email address has been entered correctly. And that the administrator at grantinterface.com is added to your contacts because the email will be coming from that account. All applicants will be notified by email if their application has been approved or declined. If your project is awarded, you'll be asked to indicate your acceptance of the grant. You'll receive an intent to accept where you accept or decline the award and provide us with the contact information of where the grant agreement and check should be sent. Once the intent to accept has been received, a grant agreement will be issued and the grant award agreement must be countersigned. The grant checks will be issued upon the receipt of the award agreement. And we also will provide you with a press release template to help publicize the grant award. We regularly feature our grantees on social media and on our website and in newsletters. So we might call on you to provide stories and photographs that we can share with the community. Grant recipients must submit progress reports to the Reeve Foundation. An interim report, interim is going to let us know whether the project is proceeding as planned or not. And if not, what we might be able to do to help you to get it back on track. And a final report will be due 1 month after the close of the grant period, and will detail the project's progress, any challenges that you're facing, how those challenges were addressed, the project's impact and final grant expenditures. This schedule is outlined on the grant letter if you are awarded, and you'll receive an email reminder when these reports are due. The reports will be available on your grant portal, and reports are assigned to the applicant. So please make sure and to let us know that if the person the report should the person that the report should be assigned to changes, that you let us know. Because what would happen is that the system is going to send it to the applicant and you might not receive these reminders or be able to access the reports.
Yeah, so just to clarify, sometimes we have grant writers sometimes we have the executive directors, sometimes we have managers that are looking at the project. And so by default, whoever applies for the grant is the person that's going to be assigned the required reports were you to be awarded. In the event that that individual is no longer there, you need to inform us because the system sends out report due reminder emails, and it will go to the individual, but it will never reach the organization if that person's email is deactivated or if the person is no longer there. So please, it is essential to keep that in mind, to keep the contact list as current as possible so that you receive all relevant information related to the product. Okay. Sorry, Maria, you can continue, please.
Sure. We cannot give specifics or comment on denied applications or provide programmatic direction. This is a requirement of the Office of Management and Budget. If you have other questions in regards to any of the other things that we've discussed here, please, definitely send it to us, but we do not get feedback or direction because that would be providing an unfair advantage over other applicants. But just please, if you have any questions, definitely send us an email. So thank you so much for your interest in our grant program. We look forward to receiving your submissions. Like we mentioned before, all the questions that you have submitted, we're going to gather them together and post them on our website. The webinar and the slides will be available. And again, if you have any questions, please submit them to qol@christopherreeve.org. And just remember that deadline is Tuesday, September 12th. Thank you.